Okay, we just covered point coordinates and then line point to point. So to finish this box, we need the points over here on this side, 2 inches in the X direction. So basically we could recreate points 1 through 4, but add 2 to the X value. All right, so I could do that. I wouldn't. I have another way I'm going to show you, but just to reiterate, under points, it defaults to coordinates. I would do for point number 1, 2, 3, and 4. All I would have to do is add a 2 here and hit preview, and see this point comes up here and then up here. So it shows you the coordinates it's coming from. So let's say I wanted to come up from this point over here. So that would be 2 and y. So I have to type in 2, 2, and 2. Oh, please be working. I'm going to hit the tab button. So my 0.5 coordinates, everything's at 2, 2, and 2, and now we create that point. But I know everything is 2 inches in the X direction. So I want to show you how to create points using another point as a reference. I'll cancel that and I'm going to start fresh. Under point, I'm going to select a point, and I'll select, actually, for the first one, it comes off the 0, 0 origin anyways. So I could go 2 in the X direction and 0, okay, and hit tab. But I'm going to use point reference and then grab point number 1. So it's related to point number 1. So if point number 1 were to shift, this one would be 2 inches over from point number 1. So if I moved all of these points off the axis, it'd still maintain a 2-inch box. So you can see in the pop-up window, I have point number 1 as my reference point, and I went 2 inches in the X direction. I'm going to go 2 inches in the X direction for all 4 points. So I simply hit OK. And what I should have done was double-click the point. And then for the point reference, again, I just find it easier to grab them off the tree than trying to grab this little tiny thing over here. Select OK. If I get my cursor there and wait long enough, I might get it to say point, or I can just go to point number 3. So you got to highlight here and make point number 3 active. So my reference point now is point number 3 for this one. Again, everything stays at 2 inches. Select OK. As a point reference, I highlight the point reference and choose point number 4 and select OK. And now I've got those 4 points. And I'll hit cancel. So you can see I've got points 5, 6, 7, 8 now. Now I could go to the line command. I could double click on this. And again, I could select a point into this next point. And again, look how hard it is to get these little points here. So I'll say OK, and I'm just going to go right off the tree this time. It's asking for points 1 and 2 again, so I'm going to go to point 6 to point 7. Select OK, point 7 to point 8. I'm just double checking up here to make sure it's right. I slide this over, make sure it looks right. Point 8 back to point 5. Select OK. All right, I could select line point to point and connect all these dots at the end, but I want to show you yet another trick. So I'll cancel line number 9. Cancel that. I have my 4 lines, 5 through 8 on this side, that's on the x equals 2 plane. On the YZ plane where x equals 0, we have lines 1 through 4. I will minimize these points. Dang it. I keep grabbing the vertical line on accident, making the part inactive. So I'm going to pick on this part of the tree again, of course. So I got that vertical line there. I'm going to show you another trick using the line feature. Under the line feature, I can get it to go a direction and a length. So I'm going to change point to point direction, next one down. And I'm going to select a point. See, I have a hard time grabbing that point off of there. I'm trying to get it to get that point number 1. So since I'm having a hard time grabbing that, I'm just going to grab point number 1 right off the tree. And there's point number 1. And now it asks what direction. I want to go in the X direction. Trying to get that X vector. So I've got the absolute axis. It shows me the direction. And then you come down here and ask for length. I type in 2. And I like to hit preview just to see what it does. Don't hit enter, otherwise it will just take it. And you can see it's connecting the dots there. Select OK. Again, what I should have done was double click the line. Pick point number 2. Instead of grabbing this X, I can go into my contextual menu. I can right click and select the X vector from here. It defaults to the last value I created, so I say OK. I do the same thing for point number 3. It's asking for a point, so I pick point number 3. The direction, again, it will be in the X direction, so I use my right button to find the contextual menu and select the X vector. It defaults to 2 inches in length. I select OK. Point number 4 is the last point. 2 inches. Again, we're going to go in the X direction. So right click to pull up your contextual menu. Select OK. I do not need a line 13. I can hit cancel. I've now created all the points in the lines used to create this box here. That is a cuboid that is 2 by 2 by 2. All right, in the next demo, we will set up a couple other lines, and then we'll start making planes.